Yeah. So you are welcome to today's live section. Our viewers, you are all welcome to another special day. We'll be looking at the 25% for the FCT. And like we said yesterday, that Dr. Tebet will be here to also take us through that. Some of us have not really been paying attention to this 25% for the FCT. Is it still relevant for Mr. Peter Obi to be declared winner? How is it going to affect our current president? So all that is what we'll be looking at. Dr. Tebet, over to you.
Okay, a wonderful day we've all had today. I want to believe so. I'm happy to be here again for us to look at another constitutional issue. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can. I hear you very well.
Yeah, it's obvious that not much was mentioned by Labour Party in their petition, and even PDP in the course of this petition and the tribunal hearing at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, which they have concluded their hearing. However, two things were important. At least the witness that came for APC, who is currently the Senate Majority Leader, admitted that APC got less than 25% in the FCT. And of course, PDP got less than 25 in the FCT. It's only Labour Party that created the whole numbers there. I think about 60-something% in the FCT. They got the 25%, they got the 50%, they inched into the other 50 and collected the whole thing, which symbolically is more like they won the vote of Nigerians, including the Aso Rock polling units. But there was a video clip I asked if it is possible for us to play. The reason why is because I align myself with the thoughts of the legal luminary in that place. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria, the former Attorney General. It's not because of his position, it's because we seem to be from the same school of thought. And if we play his video, I will come to read verbatim some of the things he referred to in that particular video clip. But whilst that video is coming on, I want to ask us, did we hear what still happened in the Enugu State Petition Tribunal, Governorship Tribunal? It's like Labour Party is going to get one more House of Assembly seat in Enugu State to make it 15 seats out of 24. And how do I know? One of the seats currently being occupied by a PDP candidate, I think it is in Nkano West local government. It's been found that there is another case of forgery, another allegation of forgery, that he submitted first school living certificates to INEC, which from the petition of the Labour Party candidate was also forged. Now, if you go to Google and search, you realize that Enugu State was created precisely by the President Babangida on 27th of August, 1991. Whereas this guy, who is currently representing the local government, I think in Nkano West local government, he submitted to INEC a certificate.
Giving me the opportunity to be here again.
Well, you're welcome. Now, there's been some controversy over the interpretation of Section 134 of the 1999 Constitution. Some legal scholars believe not having at least 2/3 of all states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, nullifies the presidential election results declared by INEC and will form the thrust, of what happens at the Election Petition Tribunal. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you very much. I have spoken so much about this and I wouldn't want to be personal. But I wish to draw the attention to the reading of a document, the requirement of a law. The Constitution is a document, and for you to get the true intention of a particular provision of the Constitution, for instance, Section 134, subsection 2, you have to read the entire Constitution in reference to other provisions of the Constitution. That's where you will get the true meaning. Today, I don't want to specifically talk about Section 134, subsection 2, but to give you other background provisions that if you want to construe that provision, you must also have to look at them to give you what you are looking for. First, let's look at the Constitution itself, Section 1 and 2. And Section 1 said Nigeria should be a federation consisting of the state and the federal capital. That is the beginning. It should be a federation consisting of states and federal capital. That and appeared there. If you go back to the sections, Section 3 of the Constitution, it went ahead to list the 36 states of the Federation by name. From there up to Section 6 of the Constitution, you will discover that what is local government is specified, what is area council is specified, the area of the states are defined in the schedule, the area of the federal capital territory is defined in the schedule. So you will know that there's no mix up of what is federal capital or what is state, because they are specifically mentioned, and the rules of interpretation is that what is specifically mentioned in the Constitution or in the document, what is not mentioned is excluded. So if you look at it, the states are well defined, their territorial area well defined, even their capitals are well defined. If you come to the issue of the federal local governments contained in all the states well defined, and then the Constitution should not pretend in federal capital to say they have a local government, say they have 6 area council, specifically defined in the second schedule, or what is the federal capital. Then if you go back to Section 133B of the Constitution, which deals with presidential election, which comes before Section 134, you will see that a person who is a single candidate at the election is still stipulated to win 25% in 2/3 of all the states and federal capital. And it goes to say that if somebody is not elected in accordance with the Constitution, fresh nomination should be. That one has gone further, not talk of fresh election, it's a fresh nomination. should be taken. That is how serious it is. If you marry that provisions, you'll be able to arrive at the true intention of section 134 subsection 2. You must look at section 133. Certain, because the person is just a single candidate, yet the stipulations say you must get to 10 of yes or no in the 32 two days of the 36 states of the federation and federal capital. And if he is not elected, there's no winner in accordance with the provisions of section 133, fresh nomination, not election, fresh nomination should be conducted. That is in the case of a single candidate. So when you come to 134, which deals with multiple candidates, 2 or more candidates, the procedure is almost the same. The and came again. Where it's being argued, maybe rightly or wrongly, that section 299 makes the federal capital a state. I am afraid where something is specifically mentioned, where defined, I don't think importation of that kind of interpretation may be appropriate. But that is still left to be resolved by the aspect. But assuming you don't look at that 299 and equate it, you will see the special nature of the federal character, because there is also specified that the president should act as if he's a governor. And therefore, one may be tempted as the federal capital is created, given a special nature. And if you look at it literally, if you
Okay, we could stop it there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You can remove the clip. Now, I align myself with this senior advocate, because if we were to be if we are to be members of the bar, for instance, I would say that I come from the same school of thought, especially with respect to interpreting this section of the Constitution. Now, many people do not know that the Nigerian Constitution actually has provision for peradventure a single candidate is to be elected, or only 2 candidates, or more than 2 candidates. Many people always think that our election must be, everybody who wants to vie. But this, why I always like us coming here to talk and to deliberate, is to educate Nigerians on the certain provisions our Constitution have provided. I know that our Constitution is fraught with a lot of gaps and co. But as I keep saying, if the people who are the handlers of our governance today are honest, committed enough, they can still make a good country out of these poor documents. I believe so. It's about the personalities that are in charge. Now, anyone here who is politically aware will remember what happened in 1998, before this constitution was formulated. There was one president we had, President Abacha, whom all the political parties in Nigeria endorsed him to be their sole candidate. All the political parties. The National Assembly was seated, that was already constituted then. The state assemblies had already been constituted. The governors, no, there was no National Assembly. I remember because when he came, he scrapped all we had in 1993. So, but NCPC, I remember all those political parties, all of them said that it is only Abacha that will be the president. And so what the 1999 Constitution is trying to say now is that peradventure we find ourselves in a situation whereby only one candidate is presented for election. He cannot just walk into the office. There must still be a voting. That is section 133 of the Constitution. There will still be a voting where the ballot paper will be yes or no. And if after the collation of the result, he did not get 25, let me read that place verbatim. It says, a candidate for an election to the office of the president shall be deemed to have been duly elected to such office, where being the only candidate nominated for the election, he must fulfill these two criteria. Number one, he has a majority of yes votes over no votes cast at that election. That is, if 10 million were to cast votes and 5.1 million said no and 4.9 million says yes, he did not get majority. That's what it means. Even though he's the sole candidate, he doesn't have anybody he's competing with. Section 133B says here, that is the condition number one. He must get the majority of the votes. And having gotten the majority of the vote, it is not enough. He must also have not less than 1/4 of the vote cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the federation, meaning he must get at least 25% of the vote cast in 24 states out of the 36 states of the federation and the Federal Capital Territory, even though he is the sole candidate. And remember that I had said in this space sometime in one of our show here that if you go to section 2 of the 1999 Constitution, there are only 2 subsections there. Section 2, subsection 1 tells us that Nigeria is a sovereign nation, an indissoluble nation that will be called the name Federal Republic of Nigeria. The name of Nigeria is so important that it carries a whole subsection. And then in section 2 of the 1999 Constitution, subsection 2, it went further to break down for us that country known as the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall constitute of states, 36 states, and federal capital, meaning that 2 components makes Federal Republic of Nigeria: the states on one hand and the federal capital on one hand. It gives reason for us to now see that if the state is if the country is constituted of 2 components, anybody who must be the president of Nigeria needs to get votes from these 2 components. Get from the states and get from the federal capital. And they are not saying you must win, just get 25% of the 2/3 of the states, which is 25% in 24 states, and 25% minimum from the Federal Capital Territory, because Nigeria as an entity is made up of 2 components: the states, which is 36 in number, and the federal capital, which is the center of our unity. That is section 2, subsection section 2, subsection 2. Section 2, subsection 1 gave us the definition of the name of the country called Nigeria. Now, if you fast track that now and come down to this section 133, you begin to see that wherever you see states and federal capital, it draws its strength from that definition of the constituent of Nigeria. In the same way, section 2, subsection 2 says that Nigeria is comprised of 36 states and the FCT. That is the same way, if you must win, even as a single candidate, you must get the majority of the vote, one. You must get 2/3 of the vote cast in the 36 states, which is 25% of the 24 states, and 25% of the federal capital. And like the legal luminary said, what is defined is defined. There's no ambiguity here. Now, it says again in section 134, I'm going to read now. A candidate for an election to the office of the president shall be deemed to have been duly elected, where being only 2 candidates, which means it can be 1 candidate, it can be 2 candidates. It says if it's only 2 candidates for an election, A, he must have the majority of the votes cast at the election, and he has not less than 1/4 of the votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the federation and the federal capital territory. Remember that Nigeria is comprised of states and FCT. States and FCT. If they said in an exam, please answer 3 questions from section A and 2 in section B. If you answer 5 in section A, you're wasting your time, because there is an waiting for you to be done to another place. It's not optional. You can't come and say, if I've gotten more than 4 states, one of them will act as the FCT. No, nowhere in the constitution where it says that. It's like the legal luminary says, a local government is defined. What it means, you know. Area council in Abuja, they didn't say it is local government, they call it area council. Now, that is for 2 candidates. And finally, subsection 2 of the section 134 says a candidate for an election to the office of president shall be deemed to have been duly elected, where there have been more than 2 candidates for the election. He has the highest number of votes cast at the election. It's still the highest number of votes. And he has not less than 1/4 of the votes cast at the election, each of at least 2/3 of the states in the federation and the federal capital territory. There is no way the condition to be elected a president wavered or try to bring in any other kind of expression that has to make the FCT to act as one of the states. It is explicit, it's stated clearly. Now, subsection 3 of section 134 says, in a default of a candidate duly elected in accordance with subsection 2, where there is more than 1 candidate, if the condition set out here with respect to FCT is not met, or if the condition set out here, majority of the vote, 2/3 of the states, 25% of the 2/3 of the state, which is 25% of 24 states, or FCT, if any one of them, if the 3 of them is not gathered or achieved by a candidate, that is, there is a default. It says, in a default of a candidate duly elected in accordance with subsection 2 of this section, there shall be a second election. There shall be a second election. There shall be a second election in accordance with subsection 4 of this section, at which the only candidate shall be. Now, what is the only candidate? He says, a candidate, now listen, the qualification to qualify for the second election. That is where Peter Obi's situation begin to come in now. And we are trying to say, all things are equal. All the prayers about forfeiture, all the prayers about INEC not complying with the Electoral Act, all the prayers of IREV not utilized, the prayer of certificate forgery, the prayer of dual citizenship, assuming the Supreme Court picks all of them and throw them inside the bin and upholds only this FCT of 25%. Which two candidates will be qualified for the second election? Meaning, assuming everything INEC said is accepted. However, the Supreme Court says, Abuja, you need to get 25% there. Which two candidates, which two political parties should be going back to the pool? It says here, 1, the candidate who scored the highest number of votes at any election held in accordance with the subsection 2. We have already read the subsection 2. It means that candidate that scored the highest number of votes is qualified automatically, meaning APC and its candidate will automatically qualified, not qualified to become president, but qualified ready to go back to the next election. That's number 1. Number 2, it says, 1 among the remaining candidates, meaning you remember there are 18 presidential candidates. 1 out of these 18 presidential candidates who has a majority of votes in the highest number of states. So, however, that where there are more than one candidate with majority of votes in the highest number of states. Okay, let's break it. There are 2 things here. What it means is, it is no longer the candidate, and I mean, the law is simple. If it was the person who scored the highest number of votes and the second runner-up, it would have been simple. The constitution would have just said, the person who scored the highest number of votes and the person who scored the second highest, like the runner-up. But the constitution says, 1 among the remaining. When it says among the remaining, there is no way all the remaining would have gotten the same number of votes. There is no way the remaining would have gotten equal. It says 1 among the remaining who has a majority of votes in the highest number of states. So, however, where there are more than one candidate with majority of votes in the highest number of states, the candidate among them with the highest total of votes cast at the election shall be the second. Meaning, if for any kind of situation, for instance, what the highest number of votes they're saying here is for PDP that is remaining, we're assuming that what INEC declared is upheld, but FCT is the challenge now. I have done that particular maths, and I found out that even in the states where INEC said that PDP won the election, some of them, they won by about 34%, 35%, 39%, 49%. So Labour Party won more than 50% when they win. According to INEC declaration, they won more than 50%, like in Anambra State, 90-something percent, in Enugu State, 70-something percent. Do you understand? And they have more states where they won, where Labour Party won more than 50% when they won. Let me give an example. Labour Party won in, according to INEC declaration, in Lagos State. But it did not win by more than 50% margin. According to INEC, APC won in Akwa Ibom State, but it did not win with up to 50%. So when the calculation of the second election, if comes to play, even though Labour Party won in Lagos State, it will not count for them. And even though PDP won in Akwa Ibom State, it will not count for them. You get it now.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where PDP lost it. If there is going to be a second ballot on the basis of FCT, if all things are equal with APC candidate in terms of other allegations put together. But it says, peradventure, it says, so however, that where there are more than one candidate with majority of votes in the highest number of states, so assuming exactly PDP has like 6 states where they won with 70%, and Labour Party has 6 states where they won with 70%, so it is equal. So which one are we going to do? Labour Party will lose out, because according to INEC declaration, PDP had the second highest number of votes. You see, the constitution is clear. It says the candidate among them with the highest total of votes cast. So the issue of the highest total of votes cast come to play when the percentage in the states become equal. Okay? Now, subsection 4 of that section 134 says, in default of a candidate duly elected under the foregoing subsections, assuming the first election has gone and they fumbled, the second election has gone and they fumbled. Subsection 4 of 134 says, in default of a candidate duly elected under the foregoing subsections, INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, shall within 7 days of the result of the election held under the said subsections arrange for an election between the 2 candidates, and a candidate at such election shall be deemed elected, which means these 2 candidates will go back to the pool again. And the candidate at such election shall be deemed elected to the office of the president if 2 conditions must be met. He has a majority of vote cast at the election, and he has not less than 1/4 of vote cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the federation and the federal capital. Okay? So, number 5, subsection 5 now says, in default of a candidate duly elected under subsection 4 of this section, INEC shall within 7 days of the result of the election held under the aforesaid subsection arrange for another election between the 2 candidates to which the subsection relates, and the candidate at such election shall be deemed to have been duly elected to the office of the president if he has majority of the vote cast at the election. Did you see it now? So when they go for the second ballot, they must still meet the condition they were supposed to meet at the first ballot. But if it becomes impossible again, they now say that the third one will now becomes, if you like, go pack all the votes from one region of Nigeria. As long as you have 1 vote greater than the other person, you are the winner. The question we ask is, what other interpretation will our judges give to us that will make them not say that for the, you see, when Dati Ahmed says that swearing in someone who did not meet these conditions is illegality, they started screaming and screaming and screaming. But I think why, I'm just trying to be objective. I align myself with what Dati Baba Ahmed said. And I also align myself with the Chief Justice of the Federation, what he did by swearing in the president. You might say, why? Well, I explain it to you. The law empowered INEC chairman. The moment he declares someone the winner and issues the person certificate of return, it is only a court through the petition tribunal that can annul it. So the Chief Justice, knowing the truth, will still say, well, until the petition tribunal finishes their course, I have a duty to do. I must swear somebody in. So I think that Baba Ahmed was not wrong. I also think the Chief Justice of Federation was not wrong. Now, what we now need is the judiciary during this tribunal to do justice, because if they allow this to sail, they have rendered the vote of FCT to just be numbers. It has no significance again, because the Supreme Court is not just only a court that interprets the Constitution, they're also a court of policy. So whatever they say becomes a precedent. It's like the Supreme Court can actually gradually and subtly rewrite our Constitution. So that is it. So, but there is another loophole here. The only way the Supreme Court, I'm talking Supreme Court now, I'm not even talking of the judgment of this Court of Appeal, because we know where it's going. The only way the Supreme Court will waive the certificate issue of the APC candidate will only be on technical ground, because what he submitted to INEC was not issued by the university. So if the Supreme Court knocks it down by technicality, peradventure, and uphold FCT, you know what it means? That candidate will still not participate, because the room the court is giving is that he might still come to participate in the election, but he's bound to be disqualified, because anything the Supreme Court would have said on the issue of technicality that would make them not uphold it would have been now expo to the petitioners, because they will go and correct it and come back to the petition tribunal again and remove him. So what I'm trying to say in effect is that head or tail, the only thing that will make the situation to be the way it is today, and the presidency continues running the way it is today, is if the Supreme Court says every prayer of PDP, every prayer of Labour Party, they grab all of them, squeeze all of them, find one explanation and throw it inside bin. If they uphold just one prayer, this pack of cards will crumble. Just one prayer. If they uphold the prayer of double nomination, wahala. If they uphold the prayer of double nomination, is equal to disqualification. For future, if they uphold it, is equal to disqualification. Certificate forgery, if they uphold it, is equal to disqualification. Dual citizenship, if they uphold it, is equal to disqualification. If they come back to the INEC and for any reason uphold that INEC did not comply substantially, even if they declare that they should go back to court to election and this candidate participate, it's only a matter of time. Because you know why? The document submitted to INEC which INEC has issued certified true copy, cannot be changed again. So I always say, I feel for those judges. They have work cut out for them. The biggest trial of the trial that is before the court will Peter Obi has been redefining Nigeria. His entry into politics has been setting the pace of redefining Nigeria. Look at his governorship history, redefining Nigeria. He entered presidency, he's redefining Nigeria. I think I am proud to live in a generation where a man like that exists. If we want to call it a commercial, when they say, let's pause for commercial. I didn't finish the story I was telling you about another issue brewing in Enugu State Petition Tribunal, House of Assembly. You know that currently, Labour Party has 14 seats out of the 24 House of Assembly. It's like Labour Party may likely get the 15th seat. Why? Because one of the seats being occupied by PDP, it is alleged, it is on the internet, that he submitted first school living certificate to INEC that was issued by the Enugu State Primary Education Board in July 1990. Enugu State Primary Education Board in July 1990. Whereas Enugu State was created in August 1991. How do you wriggle out of this? How do you reconcile this?
Funny things happening in Nigeria. God.
You see, I call it a commercial. It's good for you to laugh about this. He said he attended primary school when the state was still Anambra State. I remember August 1991 when Babangida created Enugu State. Out of the old Anambra State, the Enugu State of that year, 1991, comprises of the current Enugu State and part of the current Ebonyi State. It was Abacha in 1996 that split Enugu State into two and went to Abia State and collected some portion of Abia State and some portion of Enugu State to make it Ebonyi State. And this young man tells us that he finished his primary school in Enugu State with the stamp of Enugu State Primary Education Board in 1990. We need to clap for our politicians. Do you have any question, please?
Not really. I just want to say that these are politicians, they always think they can outsmart the people. But you can see that they are ending up denting their own image. As in, and imagine somebody saying that he got his certificate a year before the state or the body was actually created.
Remember that also in the presidency. We were told that somebody in this petition, presidential petition, that somebody got exemption, NYSC exemption later, before the law that started exemption kicked in.
Meaning they just put any year that comes into their mouth. Oh my God. What is all these things, God?
Oh my God. This is
Believe this.
It's funny. It's funny indeed. That's all I've got for
the 25%, we are just hoping that the judiciary will dispense justice, because we know that from all you've read, it means that the FCT is just like a different entity. And like you said, that Nigeria is made up of the states.
I'm reading
and the
from
FCT.
The Constitution. I'm not even conjuring from my head. I'm reading verbatim from the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. So whosoever is going to emerge as the president of Nigeria must win 25% from the FCT. So why all these debates when these things are very clear? As in this constitution, it's very clear for everyone to ask. Listening to you, reading it out, I was just following. There wasn't anything. You don't even need a dictionary. So why is it that our politicians, they will just try to cause confusion where we don't need all this confusion?
Because never in the history of this country has the people been interested in who governs them.
Mm-hmm.
Like
what we're having today, yeah.
Because the people have now become interested. That's why they're under pressure. And that the people was brought out when they wanted a person to govern them as a president. The people and their candidates. Before now, nobody cares. So it's a good development. I want to encourage Nigerians. Go and read this document. Go and read your constitution. Know even what is your fundamental human right as enshrined in this constitution. Go and read the Electoral Act. Do you know that as a Nigerian, I have the right to ask INEC to give me the certified true copy of all the election results? I am entitled to it. The law covers me, gives me the empowerment. The only thing is that the law says they will ask me to pay and I will pay. They don't have the right not to give it to me. It is in the Electoral Act. Do you know that anybody who participated in the conduct of that election did that under oath? It is in the Electoral Act. That is it.
Meaning that all these lies that they are telling, they are being told under oath. Is there any consequence for that?
Well, there is a consequence for that if we put the pressure. You know why I say so? Because in Nigeria, we were told that snakes eat money, and we laughed it off. They do it because they see Nigerians as, they will laugh it off. They will tweet it out. They will use it to make skits, and that will be the end. You remember Oga at the top? We laughed at it. We made music out of Oga at the top, and we moved on. And we moved on. It's because we always move on. That's why the political class will look at us and say, let's crush them, because they will always move on. It's a pity, indeed.
But thank you so much. Viewers, we've all heard all he has said. We really have to go and read our constitution and also get conversant with the Electoral Act. There are so many information that we really have to, get with us very, very conversant with. So let's try to bring out time and go through these documents so that we'll keep challenging these politicians and we'll keep retiring them. Because from the look of things, we are going to retire them. It's already happening. And I want to really say a big thank you to the Obedient family. You have really helped, to help us get to where we are today. It's just because of you guys, not just because of Mr. Peter. Yes, we have a credible candidate, but the working together has really helped getting us to where we are today. And I just hope that we'll keep demanding that our judiciary does the right thing. So thank you all for joining us in this live session for today. We are hoping to see you guys again tomorrow. Dr. Telbert, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a great time. All right. Bye. Thanks.